So here's the way this afternoon, the rest of this afternoon is going to go. We're going to have this session, then we're going to go out to our social, which is always under the little green canopy area with the waterfalls and stuff. It's real nice. When you checked in, you should have received your drink tickets for the social. There's 2 per night. You're more than welcome to use all those in one night. But once they're gone, they're gone. But you have 2 allotted to you per night. We've got some cool door prizes we're giving away starting tomorrow with some additional tickets, but that's tomorrow, all right? And after the social, we're going to come back in here for another bonus session. And then afterwards, dinner is on your own. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8, which will remind you of that. Okay. So, but our first bonus session, let's go ahead and get started because we are we have a really strict time frame today. There's a friend of mine. He's an educator. He's a leader, and the information he's going to deliver to you is powerful. His name's Marty Coates, and I'm going to let him take it away. Marty, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And that must have been what Troy and Tracy were thinking about when they invited me to come and be a part of your mastermind group. They must have been imagining that that possibly through this experience this afternoon, not only would you take away a few golden nuggets, and maybe you walk away with something more valuable than knowledge. Now, being here as your speaker today, I'm of the opinion at least that it was imagination that brought me here. For example, when I got the first Facebook message from Tracy asking me if I was available for today, my immediate response was yes. Certainly I am. He said, well, we've got this new thing we're doing, and we'd like to have you maybe come in and provide a presentation on a topic on leadership or customer service or something to that effect. And I said, well, give me a few days to think about it, and I'll get back with you. Well, I didn't hear from him for a day or two, and I sent him another Facebook message back and said, well, I think I've got my topic. I think I'm prepared to deliver a presentation on customer service. And I could tell from the way he responded. Have you ever had those kind of Facebook messages when you could almost sense the person behind the message had some passion behind it? I mean, that word's not associated with Tracy Myers at all, is it? I could sense this passion behind his response, but it wasn't necessarily a passion for me. It was almost like it was a whoosh kind of passion. I would probe a little further, and here's what I learned. I'm here today because the first speaker wasn't available, Brian Tracy. The second speaker had a death in a family, apparently 3 months in advance. Wasn't available. Imagination is why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I hope you'll be excited to learn a little bit about this topic that we're going to explore on extraordinary. And I try to say that word separately, extraordinary customer service. Now, just a little bit about me, so as a matter of full disclosure, I think it's only fair that you would know that I'm the son of a Southern Baptist minister. I'll give you a few minutes to chew on that. Who ordinarily doesn't wear a watch. I don't wear a watch because I find it in vogue not to wear a watch. I actually don't wear a watch because a physician gave me somewhat what I thought to be crazy advice about 9 years ago. 9 years ago, I made that move over the 40 move. I was 41 or 42 years of age. My blood pressure numbers from eating all this North Carolina barbecue were pushing the edge. And I went in for my physical exam, and he did the numbers, and he came back and he said, look, your blood pressure is right borderline. We're going to need to put you on medication. Well, my immediate response was, hey, let's don't do that. I promise, I will eat better. I'll exercise more. If you'll let me try for a few months, I don't want to go on medicine, because I'd heard for so long, if you ever get started on blood pressure medicine, you're never coming off. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Well, 3 or 4 months went by, and I was back for my follow-up. And being on the road 180 days a year on average for the last 20 plus years, eating right and exercising more, well, it ain't as easy as it sounds, is it, Troy? You have to make a commitment to do it. And I was only 3 or 4 months into the commitment. I went back in, my numbers were better, but they weren't perfect. And this is where imagination comes into medicine. He looked at me and said, that watch on your arm, let's try this for the next 3 months. Take it off. An A-type personality, riding life pretty high and tight all the time. He said, take that watch off. 3 or 4 months later, I was back in, and guess what had happened to my blood pressure numbers?
They had dropped. Now, I didn't get off the hook for exercise and eating right. I still had that pressure on me. But the watch was gone. And immediately I began to realize that that was driving a lot of life that wasn't nearly as important as it needed to be. And I haven't missed that watch in over 9 years. That story will mean a whole lot more to you at 5:15 when you want to be out in line, when you know that since I don't wear a watch, somebody out there needs to. But Will has taken care of that. I noticed he went, and the last thing he put on this table was this clock. My dad was a pastor in eastern North Carolina for more than 50 years. One church tried that with him. One church tried to put a clock at the back of the church. Needless to say, there was a come to Jesus meeting that wasn't pretty when he said, I'm not on whose time? I'm not on your time. Today I realize I'm on your time, and I'll try not to take but so much of it with an introduction. On your table, I provided you with a handout of some of the things we're going to talk about today. You may find value in following along. You may not. That'll be completely up to you. But I want to first explore with you this whole notion of extraordinary customer service. Here's the agenda we're going to follow over the course of the next 75 minutes or so. Not that anybody's keeping time. By the way, that's going to put us at 5:18 getting out because we were 3 minutes late getting started. So 5:18 if everything works perfectly. Let's start that discussion this way. Now, this is an interactive presentation. As a matter of fact, when my wife was reviewing where I was headed today, she said, now, you have how long to give this presentation? I said, well, it started at 90 minutes and now it's looking more like 75. She said, wow, that's a lot of stuff to cover. And it is a lot of stuff to cover. It'll go a whole lot more quickly and it will seem to be of more value if you're involved in that discussion. Let's start it this way. What is extra? Some words from you that describe, when you think of the word extra, what do you think of?
Something more.
Something more. Probably the number one answer on Family Feud. Something more. Next one.
Over and above.
Over and above. Very good. Anything else?
That personal touch.
That personal touch. What about going the extra mile? Something more, right? You think you're expecting something extra. What about ordinary? What are words that describe ordinary?
Common.
Average, expected, common,
Bland.
planned,
Bland. Bland.
bland. Oh, bland. Yes, bland.
Regular.
Regular. You really have different expectations in those two words, don't you? When you run across something ordinary, you've got a certain level of expectation. But when you're looking for something extra, is that the same measurement stick? It's not the same, is it? What about your customers when they arrive on your dealership lots? Would they say, and this is where this whole discussion begins, would they say that their experience with you, when they leave at least, was extraordinary or just ordinary? That's where you start, and hopefully when we end, by taking the Waymaker approach and looking at extraordinary customer service, you'll come back with a picture of maybe what the customers expect versus what they maybe sometimes get when going to your dealership. Let's first talk about what's not ordinary. What are some words that describe not extraordinary, rather? What's not extraordinary? What are some words that would describe that? Not extraordinary. We've done some of those already in a way. Superb is not extraordinary. Okay. Anybody else?
Normal.
Normal's not extraordinary. What else?
Average.
Average? Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yes.
Expected.
Expected. Okay. Now, let me offer this to you. Question. How long does it take to buy a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread from Walmart? On average, what do you think? 40 minutes. That's a good guess. Anybody else? Get this. On average, these are Walmart's numbers, not mine. 45 minutes on average. And what you would need to know is they're not excited about that. They actually want that number to be what? Higher. Walmart's based on the Las Vegas approach. And those of you who've been out there realize Las Vegas is all about getting in but never wanting you to leave, right? And they built their whole supercenter store on that whole process of let's get you in. We don't care if you ever leave. We'll feed you. You can have your checks deposited here. You can get your hair cut here. The doctor comes here. You don't ever have to leave. That's the Walmart approach. When she texted me on the way home from work, she said, honey, would you go by on your way home and pick up a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread? And although I knew I shouldn't do it, but I responded from the car and said, sure. Meaning I shouldn't have responded by way of text. Before I got from where I was to the front door of the food side of the supercenter at Walmart, I'd already thought of 4 or 5 things that I was coming back the next day for. So instead of doing that, I just get them while I'm here. And she had already responded with at least one more text of 4 or 5 other things that I should get while I was there. It started with a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread. It ends up with 10 or 12 things on the list. The problem is, where are all those things at Wally World? They're not all at one place, are they? Where's the milk? Doesn't matter how they turn that store, the footprint, doesn't matter what town it's in. It's always going to be in the back left-hand corner of the store, is it not? The bread's not there, is it? No, the bread's up. You walk past it. If you came in, you walk past the bread. And those other 10 things that were on my list, they were all over that property. Well, having been through this before, I knew how to handle it. You don't go get the milk first, because if you do, the milk will be what? Hot. So you got to go all over the store and get your items, pick up the bread, and go back to the back left-hand corner and get the milk. And then as you make your way back, the reality of what you know is at the front begins to come to the front of your mind. That picture of 19 registers, but when you came through, there were how many open? 2. 2. Do you remember when Walmart started its growth in this country? Do you remember the signs? They were there. The signs at the lines, checkout lines, that said, if more than 5 of you are in line, we'll do what? We'll open another register. The signs are gone now, and they really should replace them and say, if at least no more than 20 of you are in line, we're going to close one down. Because that's the reality of what's happening. 45 minutes later, I'm in that, do I go back there? And no, I'm smarter than that. I'm not going back there. I'm going to Lawn and Garden. Because they always have somebody there with a register open, and so few people are ever there until the day that I go to Lawn and Garden. Everybody else thought the same way, didn't they? 45 minutes for just a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread. I was actually standing with a representative from the franchise industry in front of a legislative committee not too long ago. We were both testifying about a piece of legislation. And I was sitting waiting for my turn when this particular person representing the franchise industry stood up and said, if his members had heard him say that, I'm not sure he'd be their representative today. He said to these members of the General Assembly, our average time to do a deal at our franchise member lots is 4.5 hours. Now, no one else in the room except me probably keyed in on that. Because most of the legislators were not in the car business. Most of the legislators would probably not stay and wait 4.5 hours. They'd call ahead, somebody do a favor for them, they'd work it out, they'd bring the car to them, they'd break the rules, whatever it took to get the deal done in a lot of cases. But I'm sitting in the chair listening to that, and I cringed. Now the reality is sometimes it does take us a while to get a deal done. Would you agree? Sometimes it takes all day, it seems, to get that deal done. Because there's pieces and parts that the customer and you can't quite all get together at the same time. But I hope that's not the average. And if it was, I sure wouldn't tell it, would you? Especially if the customers that you're focusing on are less than 40 years of age, because you know what? They don't wait 4.5 hours. They don't wait 4.5 hours unless they absolutely don't have another choice. What a challenged place to be in with no other choice. And then you and I have got an ethical dilemma there, don't we? Just because they can't doesn't mean they should have to necessarily. 4.5 hours for that generation is way too long. They can't even stay in a seminar like this for 15 minutes without already doing what? Their mind's gone. They're checking, they're texting, they're emailing. They're somewhere else other than this room. Oh, they're physically here, but they're somewhere else. But if that's the case, are they going to sit in your showroom waiting for you to make that deal happen? No, they won't. And if they ever leave, what's the numbers about how many of them ever come back and buy? You know, while you're working this out, I'm going to run check on something. You ever had to leave and never come back? That's not the goal, is it? The goal is to make sure you get it done while they're there. But they leave and they never come back. Why? That Wally World experience is why. We don't go to Walmart, most of us, for the same reasons we go to other places. How many of you go to Walmart because it's the most fabulous place to shop? How many of you go to Walmart because they got the best quality of anything out there. Anybody? Why do you go to Walmart? They have it. They probably got anything that's, and I've been on the road sometimes and they're the only ones that have it. Okay? What else might you go there for?
It's inexpensive.
Price. Price. Convenience maybe. Okay? You know there's one in every town almost anymore. You know you can find one. And in many cases 24 hours a day anymore. So they're always open. But we don't go to them with the same expectation. We may go to a Nordstrom's or even to a Belk's or somewhere else. We go to them because of those reasons. So are we willing to accept long lines there? But it frustrates us, doesn't it? It frustrates us. We're willing to accept it, but it frustrates us. What about in your dealership? Are your customers willing to accept that 4.5-hour wait? If they have no other choice, I would suggest to you that they are. But again, an ethical dilemma for us if we make customers wait just because they have no other choice and we know it. The difference between those that do deliver extraordinary customer service and those that don't, I submit to you, are the little things. The little things. For example, how many of you have ever been bitten by an elephant? Anybody? What about a mosquito? Everybody, right? Probably everybody. The difference in those that do and those that don't is the difference in being bitten by an elephant and bitten by a mosquito. It's the little things that matter most when delivering that extraordinary customer service. If you were looking for your world to get rocked just because that's a nifty topic, probably not going to happen. We're going to narrow things down to some things that are almost too obvious to be real. Almost too obvious. For some of you, with my preacher background, my dad's preacher background, not mine, today could be an opportunity for some of you to be converted. Most of you, I'm preaching to the choir. You're the top echelon of your dealership world. I'm preaching to the choir here in a lot of cases. But I'm going to stretch out just a little bit and say that even to the choir, I bet you there's a few things here that you're not doing consistently. And if you would do them consistently, you'd see your numbers increase. But in order to do that, and I didn't create this thing, Tracy and Troy created the thing, you got to imagine. You got to imagine. You can't, even for the next 30 or 40 minutes, you can't be a car dealer anymore. For the next 30 or 40 minutes, you're not a car dealer. Step outside that box, step off that lot, step out that showroom, and don't be a car dealer for the next 30 or 40 minutes. And just imagine, if you would do 1, 2, or 3 of these things, would it make a difference in how your customers experience service at your dealership? And I submit to you that it would, and it does. Let's see if I can convince you. Your customers, why do they want to do business with you? What do they really want? Well, if we're not in the car lot anymore, then I would tell you your product's not cars. Your products could be anything. Okay? We're not in the car business. We're in what kind of business? People business. People business. And people really want 3 things. They want to know you, to trust you, and like you. And if they know you, they might buy from you. If they like you, there's a good chance they'll buy from you. But if they trust you, I can almost for sure bet you they'll buy from you. And for many of us in the industry that you used to be in prior to just a minute ago, we have a reputation that doesn't always connect with the word trust. Would you agree? That it may not be any of you in this room, but the industry at large, every day, struggles with that every time a customer comes onto the lot. They struggle with that idea that maybe, just maybe, you're not telling them everything about the product you're selling them. That maybe, just maybe, you're holding something back. Maybe you could give them a better cut on the interest rate. Maybe you could give them a better warranty on the car, but you've chosen not to do it. And you and your sales staff have to overcome that objection over and over, or actually overcome that feeling of distrust over and over through the entire encounter. Some of you figured out how to do that pretty successfully. Others of you are still working on that, and your staff are still working on that. In and out of dealerships, day after day, really for the last 4 or 5 years, I've become convinced that if sales staff could come to the realization that getting a customer to trust them would increase their sales, Rather than worrying about the things that aren't going right, that they don't know about the car, those kind of things they focus on rather than focus on getting the person's trust, they watch their numbers go up. And about 1 out of 10 figure that out. What kind of turnover? Craig's not in the room, but he could tell us this. What kind of turnover do we have in the sales staff? Pretty consistent, isn't it? It moves pretty regularly. And it moves regularly because I think they're focusing on the wrong thing. They're trying to sell a product instead of trying to get people to trust them. And someone trusts you, they'll buy almost anything at almost what? Any price. Any price. In the first 10 seconds of every customer encounter, selling widgets, providing service, or any other product, the first 10 seconds of every customer encounter, your customer forms lasting impressions of you. Lasting impressions. Think for just a second outside the box and imagine the places where you shop, the places that you do business with. What were some of the impressions you had in the first 10 seconds of that encounter? We could start with the hotel. You could start last week. When you walk onto a place to do business, in those first 10 seconds, you can test this, see if this is true as you go through this with me. What did you see when you got there? What were your impressions? Get a good scenario and a bad scenario. Let's go to the good scenario first. Let's start with the positive. A good scenario, a good place you do business. What were your first impressions?
Greeted at the door.
Greeted at the door. Okay? Someone else.
Friendly.
Friendly impression.
Clean.
A clean impression. Okay? Anyone else? Happy? Were folks there happy?
Yes.
Were folks there positive? How did you know that? You didn't have to spend all day with them. You knew it the minute you walked on to the property, didn't you? And that wasn't 30 minutes in or an hour in. That was in the first 10 seconds. Now go to that other scenario. Maybe the one that wasn't so good. The ones that weren't so good. What were they? What were the impressions you formed? Were they the same ones? I bet they weren't the same ones. That less than perfect customer experience you've had in the last few days, I bet you can see it, can't you? What was it? What were the impressions you had?
Didn't care.
They didn't care. Okay. Someone else?
Ignored.
I'm sorry.
Ignored.
They ignored me. Okay.
Hard to do business with.
Just struggled the whole time trying to make this thing work.
Untrained.
Untrained staff. Okay. Anyone else? What about the physical appearance of the place?
Dirty.
Physical appearance of the place.
Disheveled.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we ever open our mouths, before we ever have a conversation, before there's any contact with the customers, guess what they're already deciding? They're deciding one of 3 decisions before we ever talk to them. And it's based solely on the impressions of what they see. When they roll up on your place of business, is it clean? Is it inviting? Is it pleasant? Is the signage as it should be? You know, you've seen those places, haven't you? When you couldn't get to the door for all the signs. Now there's a time for signage and there's a time for too much signs. Would you agree?
Yeah.
When you're stepping over it, it might be too much. When I can't see the product for the signs, it might be too much. We can go back to 2 retail stores. I can give you 2 examples. Wally World, of course. By the way, I do work for Wally World, so you should know that I'm not against Wally World. Okay? They come up with the numbers, not me. There was a whole other company that made a lot of money up until Christmas time on all the things that Wally World was struggling with. What was the name? Target. You know why Target made money off of Wally World struggles? Because when we went into Wally World 5, 8, 6, 7, 8 years ago, you remember having to walk over product. You remember how the aisles they got so much stuff and the aisles were so crowded? What was Target doing? Pushing the aisles back. We could see it. It was clean. Lighting in the building was lit in such a way. It was inviting to shop at Target. And Wally World, it was more like a warehouse. That's what it had become. But what did Wally World figure out? They got to compete. So they went back and did what? Changed all the flooring. They've now gone, the tile's gone and that different kind of non-slip flooring is in. The aisles have been pushed back. Things are at aisle level. It's more inviting. The rollback signs. When's the last time you've seen a rollback sign in Walmart? You've forgotten it. You haven't seen it, have you? It's still a part of their slogan, but they've changed how they package it. Because we were so focused on the rollback, we couldn't even see the product. What about where you work? What about for your customers? Signage, yes. Placement, yes. But there's some simple things that are far more inviting. When's the last time you opened the hoods on the cars? Oh, you don't sell cars, I'm sorry. When's the last time you rode by a dealership and the hoods open on the cars? When's the last time you've seen things that would invite the customer, but not run them away? Impressions mean everything. They make, from those first 10 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, one of three decisions. They decide if they like you in that first 10 seconds. Based on what they see, before your staff ever gets to them, they decide whether or not they like you. They decided, possibly, to dislike you based on what they've seen. And again, I submit to you, we've not even talked to them yet. We've not shaken their hands yet. We've not had a chance to really develop any kind of relationship. They've just seen us at this point. Or they may make the third decision, because they're going to make one of the three. And the third decision is one of indifference, which means they really don't care. There's nothing here that is so alluring to me that really makes me want to stay and do business at your place of business. Now, if you were allowed to go back to your dealership, if you were allowed to see your dealership inside these 40 minutes, which impressions are they making? Are they seeing? And what decisions are they making at your dealership? What impressions are they gaining? And what decisions are they making? Again, you say, well, overall, I think they're making a like decision. Overall, our numbers are good. Well, this mastermind group is not about being good, is it? Have I arrived at a mastermind group under the moderation of Troy and Tracy and the direction of Will? Now, folks just want to be good? I don't believe so. I believe this whole group's about being extraordinary, different than competition. You see, Lisa Ford said, our competitors can copy our product, but they can't copy our what? Service. They can buy cars. We can all buy cars. And we can all put them on the lot. And we can be within $10 of each other on price. But what about service? What about service? And those of you who've been in the business for some time, you realize that there are some reasons as to why customers leave. Here are a few reasons as to why customers might leave. Some before they ever buy. Others after they purchase from you. And because of the experience they had with you, they don't come back. The name of the game for most of us is getting customers to do what? Come back. Not the first sale, it's the repetitive sale that makes us successful long term. Not the first one, but when they bring the son or the daughter back, or they refer a friend, and now I'm making money because of what? Not product, because of service. Here are 11 things that impact or cause customers not to come back. And we've talked about some of them already. Dirty facilities, rude staff, billing issues, long waits, antiquated systems. Antiquated systems. Now, in the back of your package, I won't get to that section that's entitled Extra, by the way. A whole section in the back entitled Extra. But while you're looking at that breaks, or later on, I'd be encouraged that you would find that of value to you. You'll see, we'll talk a little bit about generationally challenged businesses. Generationally challenged businesses are those that because of age and mindset, they've decided not to adapt to today's customer. And because they've decided not to adapt, they're going to have a short shelf life in terms of success. They may still experience some now, but if they're expecting to hand it down to junior, it's probably not going to happen because there won't be much left for junior by the time they mature in the life cycle of your company. Why? Because they've decided to be generationally challenged. What do I mean? They're ignoring the need for social media. They're ignoring the need for efficiency in their dealership. They're ignoring the need for changing processes to make them more profitable. Because they've always done it this particular way and it seemed to work okay, we're just going to keep doing it the way we've always done it, and eventually there'll be nothing to do business with in generationally challenged businesses. Slow response time to customer complaints. Now, if you sold every product that you sell, again, we're not in the car business, but if you sold every product that you sell, and never had one returned, you'd be something that you'd be a company I've never dealt with before. I've never dealt with a company before who didn't sell products that sometimes are returned. The challenge for keeping customers and keeping them from leaving is, what do you do when they return them? Do you make it difficult for them to return it? Trader Joe's, no questions asked what? Return policy. Okay? That's not new to them. That's not brand new. That's not their idea. They did not create that. Guess where they got that from? Wally World, which no longer has a what? No questions asked return policy. Because they did. They did. And people did what to them? They abused it. Nordstrom of all companies no longer has, they have a return policy, but there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason. I bought something yesterday, and the person that sold it to me said, I said, well, I'm not sure this is actually going to work with the equipment. I really am a little bit tentative about it. He said, well, listen, don't worry about it. If it doesn't work, just bring the package. It doesn't have to be in the package. Just bring the package back with you and the product, and we'll take it back. Did he say forever? No. 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to figure it out, but if not, it's yours. 2 weeks. The billing cycle on your credit card, about the time this thing's going to hit your credit card for you to make your payment, you got 2 weeks. Do you make it easy or do you make it hard? Unfortunately, sometimes when I'm out with customers and clients, I find that they say they make it easy, but in reality, they make it hard. At sale time, they talk about how easy it would be to bring this back. We'll take care of it. We'll fix it. They make that pledge. And then 6 months later, when it breaks, they bring it back. We don't fix it so easily every time. And customers don't forget that the next time it comes time to purchase. They'll remember how easy it was or how difficult it was for you to live up to your pledges and for them to be taken care of when they did in fact complain. Inflexibility to deliver service, unknowledgeable staff, someone mentioned that earlier. All of these are reasons why customers leave and don't come back. How many of you like coffee? Anybody coffee drinkers in here? That adds to high blood pressure, by the way, if you drink a lot of it. It can. I drink a lot of it. So I've got to figure out how to balance that over time, or I will eventually end up on that medicine if I'm not careful. Coffee. I drink so much of it. This has been a good day, as a matter of fact. I haven't had so much since well, what time did I get here? 3 o'clock? I stopped at Rock Hill, so how close is that? It's not very far. My last cup was at Rock Hill. Coffee. To me, it is the equivalent to a fine wine. To me, it is the golden whatever. I drink it in the morning. If I have access to it during the day, I drink it all day long. When I go home at night, I have water and tea possibly with dinner, and then after dinner, what do I want? Coffee. A decaf, but I still want coffee. Decaf, but I still want coffee. I don't know how I developed this habit. It could have been the military. Back then, it wasn't about the taste, it was about the color. If it ain't black, 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 it ain't good coffee. And we drank it all day long and all night long sometimes. I don't know where I acquired the habit or the taste, but I got it. But also when I have my coffee from places that I purchase it from, I want it the way I want it. And I frequent a particular restaurant that's associated with a hotel in the town where I live. I oftentimes entertain clients there for breakfast. And I go there so frequently that the wait staff knows me. The minute I walk in, they treat me like somebody special normal because I come so often. And I noticed about 2 years ago, and I didn't demand it at first, but once it started, I began to demand it everywhere. But I noticed about 2 years ago, Pat, who worked in there sometimes when I was there, she would be there, one of the wait staff. She came by one day, and my coffee cup was about halfway empty. And most times when it gets that way, it's cold, and I really don't want it. And they come back behind you, and they'll pour some hot coffee into the cold coffee, and now you got warm coffee, which is not really what I wanted. What I want is hot coffee every time I take a sip. But I wasn't always so demanding as I am now because of what I experienced with Pat. Pat came by one morning and saw my cup after having been there a few minutes, and she didn't remove the cup. She came back from the kitchen with a cup and a hot towel. And not only did she bring me a new cup, she brought me a hot cup that had been washed in hot water so the cup would be hot, so that if she was pouring coffee out of the pot that was on the table, the coffee would still be hot. She put me on to a new fad. I really tick people off in restaurants today when I demand a hot cup when that one gets cold. Is it a big thing? To the server, sometimes it is. And who does he think he is? At IHOP or Waffle House or wherever I happen to be, and I demand that second cup be hot. It may make them mad, but to me, it's now not a little thing. It's a big thing. That if they would do the little thing, it would make me a real satisfied customer. What's your hot cup of coffee idea? What's your hot cup of coffee that your customers are demanding? I bet you're overlooking it. I bet it's so simple that you can't even think about it. But tomorrow, actually Wednesday, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, some of you might be Wednesday, Thursday, West Coast. I don't know when you're getting back home. But it may be a while before it clicks. But when it clicks, guess whose face you're going to see in your mind's eye? The bald-headed guy in the gray suit. It's going to be me. That's what he was talking about. It was that little thing that my customers, it's big to them, it's little to us. And we've been maybe overlooking it, ignoring it. Some of us, we've been doing it intentionally because there might be a cost associated with it. It costs for someone to bring that cup. It costs for someone to wash that cup. It's pennies, but it makes a world of difference. Because how many people do I tell about that cup? Thousands a year.
Hey, Marty,
Yes,
just real quick. I had the hot cup of coffee, and years ago at an Outback Steakhouse, they brought out a salad, and it was on a cold plate. And to me, that was a hot button. I hate when they serve a cold salad on a hot plate, fresh out of the dishwasher.
Absolutely.
And I don't really frequent there that much now, but I can tell you, it changed my buying habits and where I ate for a while. Because the same thing they would do with beer mug. You had a beer, it was in a frosted mug, you had cold salad, it was on a cold plate. Little things that I'm not sure a lot of people really did recognize or know, but what you're talking about with that, it absolutely makes a difference. It's a great point.
So what's your coffee cut idea? Maybe you don't know right now, but when it comes back to when you get back and you come across it, you'll know that that's the coffee cup idea. Now, to make sure you remember it, I encourage you to go back to your dealership, get a coffee cup out, and put it on your desk. Not to drink from, just to be what? I'm looking for the coffee cup at my dealership. I'm looking for that one idea at my dealership. That's a little thing to me, but a big thing to my customer. 10 extraordinary customer service habits. You want to provide extraordinary customer service, you got to do these 10 things. You'll write them down quickly as I try to explain some of them to you or share at least my opinion on some of these. You've got to express empathy if you want to provide extraordinary customer service. And some of the products that you sell and some of the customers that buy from you, they're in challenged situations, some of them. The last thing they need to hear from you is an arrogant attitude. That's the last thing they need to hear from you. I've heard it. I've corrected it in dealerships over and over again, on the spot, real time. If that's not what you want from a guy like me, don't hire me. Because I don't have time for folks to make customers feel bad. I've run them out, salespeople out of the office. Just because they knew that customer was in it. That customer knew when they came in, they were in the condition they were in. They didn't need you to tell them. They already knew it. That's why they were coming. They needed help. They needed help. Instead, they got a lecture on how to better handle their finances. Quit talking and start what? Listening more. It was the advice in that case. Treat customers as if they're the most important part of your job, not a hindrance. Treat co-workers as your customers because they are. We won't have time today, and I wish we did, go into internal and external customers. We don't have time to do that. Give your customers your name and your phone number. Now, we're quick to hand out business cards to potential customers. We're quick to hand out our dealership, our business name and number to customers when they come on our business. But how many of them, after the sale, are so willing to give that name and number out? We got to be willing to let them know who we are, where we are, and even our cell phone numbers and email addresses. That's the place where people live today. They don't live with the hard phones on the walls anymore. Smile and use a voice inflection on the telephone. I should have done it. I didn't do it, and I regret that I didn't do it. I don't know that Tracy would have released the names to me in advance, but I wish I would have called your places and businesses before I came today. Only so I could give you some good feedback from a neutral party, because you didn't know me. But I didn't get to do that. Maybe you should have somebody else do it. Have you listened to your phone lately? Have you listened to the way folks are answering the phone where you work? Maybe not you, because maybe you don't answer it so much anymore. But you got somebody that you're paying to answer the phone. And some customers are deciding when they make that initial phone call that they don't want to do business based on how that person handled, not how they treat them, they just simply answer the phone. Be on time every time. Don't make customers wait. If you set appointments, and I know that's sort of where we are today, we're in that set appointment mode, and by golly, you don't have something else to do, you be right there. Or don't set the appointment. Don't make the customer look for you. Follow up on your promises, under promise and over delivers. These are somewhat cliche. Go the extra mile, and then offer the customer options. I don't know if any of these are your hot button or your hot cup of coffee buttons, but they're certainly the kinds of things that would put you in a position to deliver extraordinary customer service. And now we'll talk about some do's and don'ts. Let's handle the don'ts first. If you want to provide extraordinary customer service, don't say some of these things to your customer. The first thing you don't want to say to your customer is, I don't know. You're an expert in your industry in the mind of your customer. They depend on you to know more than they know. And the last thing that you want them to hear from your staff is that they don't know. Tell me about this particular model. I never had one of those. I don't know much about it. It's a good looking car though, isn't it? Like the color? The color may not be the issue. They want to know about the car and the product. Don't say no. So often, no comes out when a yes should come out. No comes out first when a yes, I can look into that. Yes, we can do our best to try to make that happen. Sometimes we can't, but we at least going to give them a yes, we'll try versus no, we can't do it. And we're cutting ourselves off from potential sales in that case. Don't say, that's not my job. That's not my job. Now these are probably things that you're not saying, but guess who's saying them? Folks in the service department. Folks in the finance department. Folks in the collection department. Folks in the sales desk. That's where these things are being. Maybe you're not saying them. Matter of fact, if you heard them say them, you'd get angry and you'd go down and take care of it. And then you'd be gone for a day or two. And guess what happens when you're gone for a day or two? They say them again. If the culture is such that allows that to happen, you need to talk to my manager. That's a direct reference to the customer that this person is not in what? Empowered to do anything for me. If I got to talk to your manager and go get him, I don't want to deal with you, let me deal with the manager. I don't have time to deal through 3 people. I don't have time to work through 3 different people. I want to work with the one that's going to help me. And when a customer service representative says to the customer, I'll have to get my manager for this, that conversation's over in the eyes of the customer. Go ahead and get the manager. That manager's back in the sales business now. You can't, you want it by when? Last November, I guess it was, I was working with a dealership, and I'd been there 4 or 5 days across 30. Just hit or miss, 4 or 5 days across 30 days. And by the 3rd or 4th day, I became amazed at something that just wasn't vivid to me before. And that was this idea that there was one salesperson in that group that sold more cars that we didn't have than the entire rest of the group sold what was on the lot. You get the picture? This person looked ahead of the customer and got them to buy something that we did not even have. Took deposits and we went and got it based on what they sold. We didn't have it. And all the rest of them were trying to sell what we had on the lot. To me, that was pretty amazing that you have a person that could sell a customer on. The customer came in with an idea and left with a car they didn't have, and we had a deposit, and all we had to do was go find the car. Most of which we could do based on that salesperson's ability to get down to the needs of the customer. They cut through all the minutiae, got to the needs of the customer, and got them what they wanted. They never said any of these things. They never said, calm down, I'm busy right now, call me back. All of these are the kinds of don'ts to providing extraordinary customer service. These are the do's. These are the things that define extraordinary customer service. Do these things. Listen to your customers. Agree to do something for them, even if it's not the end of the conversation. At least try to help them. Stay calm. Call them back if necessary. That's probably the customer's largest pet peeve. How many of you have called your cable company in the last 6 months? Okay. I hope you're going to have a better experience with yours than I've had with mine. If you have, I won't call the name of the particular one that I formerly dealt with. I no longer deal with them now. I've decided to make a change based on the fact that I could never talk with anybody. Could never call them back. Especially when I made it known. They gave me a list of 6 or 8 options to choose from through the phone menu. And I chose the option that was closest to my need. And it was the option that said if you want to cancel, terminate or cancel your service. No one ever picked up on the other end. So in order to get to that, make that transaction happen, I went ahead and switched my service before I cut the other one off. And then, forgive me, but I had to lie to the phone so I could get to a person to cancel the service. In other words, the option, they gave me no option that allowed me to cancel. I had to lie to the phone so I could get somebody on the phone. Who then they sent me to something called Customer Retention Department. Oh my, the Customer Retention Department, which made me all kinds of ludicrous suggestions on how they could keep me. I finally said, you know, you've lost the battle. I've already switched. But if I offered you $5 more, if I reduced your bill $5 more, I said, you're 95 short. The other company's doing it $100 less a month. A month. Why? Because you wouldn't answer the phone. That's why. I've tried for 3 months to talk to somebody, and nobody will talk to me. I don't have time to stay on the phone to make that happen. So what about your customers? Do they have time for you not calling them back? Make sure you call them back. Admit your need, or you need rather, to research the issue. If you don't have the answers, it's okay. Customers are okay knowing that you want to find out what the answer is. So that gives them confidence to know that you invest time to do it. Assure the customer you'll help them. Ask them for help, or ask for help. If you don't know, ask someone in the company that does. If necessary, get your supervisor involved, but not in front of the customer as an option. Do that as a side. But in all cases, do something. Don't let it linger and labor and do nothing. Do something if you want to provide extraordinary customer service. 10 keys that take us a step closer. Customers are and should be treated like family. When we don't call them back, now there's some of my family I don't want to call back when they call. How about you? There's some, when I see the number pop up on my cell phone, I want to be busy at that moment. And I guess some of our customers may make us feel that way too. The reality is, when we're providing extraordinary customer service, we're not doing what the others in the business are doing. We're doing something different. We're actually calling them back. We're calling them and asking for their complaints. And how do you do that? How do you call your customers and ask them, after you sold the car, how's it working? Is it really working? What can we do to make it better? You know, there are a few companies that do that. And I say few. There's only 3 letters in that word, aren't there? It's not a long word. It's a small word, a simple word, because there are few of us that are doing it. We sell it, it's gone, good riddance, thank God, hope they never come back. Instead of 30 days, 90 days, 180 days. At the end of the year, somebody's touching them, email, calling. How's it working? Is it working? I want them to know we're still concerned about their product and the product we've sold them. We want to treat them like family. Show respect to them, listen to them. That's the 3rd time, I think, you've seen that term on one slide or another. Listen to them. You know why it's so important? Because we're not connected. In a lot of cases, we're not connected with our customers. You say, well, yes, we are. We're wired in. We've got email, we've got websites, and we've got blogs, and we've got phones, and we're connected. They can get a hold of us. We are plugged in. That's not what that means. We're not connected because we don't communicate with our customers at every turn. We're doing it like everybody else is doing it. But those that provide extraordinary customer service are doing it not like everybody else is doing it, but just the opposite. For example, if you take every customer and you train your sales staff to present your product to every customer the same way, I'll assure you, at least half the time, and probably more like 66% of the time, you're presenting the product in the wrong manner to your customer. Why is that? You've heard probably this before. Let's just review it together. Have you ever heard these 3 terms? Auditory, visual, and kinesthetic? You've heard them, haven't you? This guy's not telling me anything new. Pardon me?
NLP.
NLP. Auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Which ones of us are more visual? Guys, okay? We are more visual. Which ones of us are more auditory? Ladies, they like to see us and talk to us. My wife, after 26 years of marriage, 2 kids, both of which, my daughter just graduated. I thought I heard someone say earlier they'd been to 2 graduations. Well, I got my last one out of the way at least for the next 4 years. She still doesn't believe after 26 years of marriage that I can sit in the family room with the remote in his hand while she's in the kitchen preparing dinner and carry on a conversation with her while watching there and checking my messages on my phone and doing 6 hours. She doesn't believe it. Why do I know she doesn't believe it? Because she screams at me, come in here so I can talk to you. This is important. We got to talk about it. Well, let's talk about it. I'm okay. What's on your mind, honey? But she doesn't buy it. Why? She wants to do what? She don't want to hear me. She wants to see me. She wants to know if she can read whether or not I'm telling her the truth before I ever open my mouth. But she doesn't believe I can do that from the kitchen. I'm convinced from the family room. I'm convinced I can, but she doesn't believe it. So if you're selling a product to the 2 of us at your place of business and you try to address both of us the same way, she's not going to get the same message that I'm going to get. Because you know what, I don't particularly want to hear all the talk. What do I want to do? Put me in I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to hear it. I want to feel it. She's concerned about other things. And then there's this issue of kinesthetic, which is it's not either of those. It's a step beyond that. That's the person that wants to feel. They feel things. They speak in that language of feelings. And you'll know that before you ever try to sell. If you listen to what they're telling you in that pre-qualification process, they'll tell you which of those 3 they are. If your staff's trying to sell all the product to your customers the same way, you're missing at least half and possibly 2/3 of the opportunities to sell it. If you could just focus and train them to focus on those 3 things, I bet you'd see your numbers go up. That might be your hot cup of coffee idea. If we were to retrain the staff to focus on the communication our customers require. They're not going to put this on a banner. I'm auditory, I'm visual, I'm kinesthetic. They're not going to put that on the banner when they walk in. You're going to have to look for it. You have to be trained to look for it. And if you do, I think you'll see your numbers go up. Keep your practices relevant. We spoke a little bit about it earlier. It's in the extra package in the back of the book. Make sure that you're not still trying to do things the way we've always done them, because they're not all the same. The last one I think you'll see a couple more times, especially if you read the back of the handouts. Say thank you. Say thank you. I didn't bring it down. It's in my room. Maybe tomorrow I'll show it if anybody has interest in it. How many of you have a thank you file that you keep? Anybody got a thank you file?
What do you mean by that?
Customers that you've done business with that wrote you a note and said thank you. Employees that you've had in your employ that somewhere across the years wrote you a note and said thank you. It takes real men to admit it, and women would say that's so obvious. Sure, I've got them in a box. I've got them out in my bureau in my bedroom. I've kept them since high school. Ladies tend to keep more of those than men do. We men not necessarily think that's manly enough to admit it. But I'm manly enough to admit I keep thank you notes. I don't keep them all, but I've kept some. I travel with them in my daytimer. That's really about all that daytimer warehouses anymore. The rest of it's on my phone. But I keep it inside that daytimer. Why? Because 180 times last year, I got to look at groups your size and larger. And some days were diamonds. Some days weren't. And some days folks would actually write and tell me how much they appreciated it. Not the whole group, just one. And I would take that and tuck it away. You know why? Because the days when they're not diamonds and nobody's looking, I reach inside that daytimer on an airplane, open it up and do what? Read the thank you file. To remind me that, what I do still has value. It didn't work perfectly today, but here's a customer that did work perfectly for it and give me energy to go back and do it again tomorrow. To go out and work a little bit harder tomorrow for the next customer I'm going to encounter. You only create thank you files if you do what? Write thank you notes. A person that writes them gets them, I guarantee you. A person that has a mindset of thanking their customers for doing business with them will get thank you notes. When you tell your employees thank you for a good job on a regular basis, and especially the times when they really hit it out of the ballpark, guess what? You'll have a thank you file. You'll have a box full to collect. But you won't unless you make that a part of your attempt to provide extraordinary customer service. Extraordinary customer service is sassy. It's a spirit of service. It's not a book. It's not words on paper. It's not a 45-minute or 75-minute presentation at a mastermind. It's a whole reworking of the way people think at your place of business. It's a spirit of service, the attitude of service. It's taking a sense of urgency to serve. It's a special trait that only a few folks have. And the difference between those that provide extraordinary customer service and those that don't are those that decide to do it. That find enough value in the little things that matter most to do it. That brings us full circle here at 5 minutes after 5. Brings us full circle to the Waymaker approach. Where is that? How does that all fit in to what we've talked about so far? There are 8 principles or 8 keys to the Waymaker approach. It's almost as if you had a volume 1 and a volume 2. This is volume 2. The others were tools. Everything we've talked about at this point are tools. The how-tos, the don'ts, the do's. Tools to delivering extraordinary customer service. These 8 principles or 8 keys are the next part of that. It just so happens that today I'm presenting on a Sunday. Normally I don't do that. Normally I travel only after 6 o'clock on Sunday. And if those of you that travel like some of you do, that's not always the optimal time to travel because you end up getting what's left in terms of travel options. But I do that because when I am home, I want to be home. And Sunday's the day that I normally am home. The Waymaker approach, it's just interesting that we tie it back in together on Sunday. These are 8 principles that were modeled not by me, but modeled by the one who models service, at least in my opinion. There were 8 things he did, I think, on a consistent basis. Everywhere he went, people wanted to do business with him. Now, he had some enemies, but those that got to know him, like him, and trust him, were willing to give their life for him. These were the 8 things he did. It was always positive. Nobody wants to do business with people that aren't positive. That's preaching to the choir in this room, I realize it, but just sometimes a good hymn needs to be sung twice. One more verse, one more chorus. Nobody wants to do business with people that aren't positive. If you've got negative Nancy's working at your business and they don't want to come around, then they need to go where? Work for your competition. Help them be successful somewhere else. It's always been my slogan. I believe everybody can be successful. Even negative Nancy can be successful, but she's not going to be successful here if we're going to deliver extraordinary customer service. You have to move with purpose. He had a mission and a short time to get it accomplished. He didn't have time to move around without a purpose. Customers don't want to do business with folks who've got all day to do business with them. Not the customer today. They're ready to do business now. And you need to be prepared to do it and move with purpose. Serve before being served. There's a story for each of these that time won't permit me to tell. But I wish I could tell you in full length this one. I first learned about extraordinary customer service from my granddad. He was the father of 7, a farmer back in just after the Depression. Father of 7 kids that went blind at the age of 41. Had an accident that caused his left eye, and then he got glaucoma that took the other one out. You would say, well, this is one of those tear-jerking, that's not meant to be one of those stories. It's the truth. A blind farmer, not a great place to find yourself in at 41 years of age to feed 7 kids right after the Depression. What was he to do? He became the project of the Lions Club of Dillon, South Carolina, who took him and sent him to a school. There was only one on the East Coast at that time and one on the West Coast. I was told this, obviously I didn't live this. They sent him to a school in New Jersey to learn a trade. He was to come back to that town and from after being there, do something with his hands that he could earn at least some wage to support his family. When he went and learned from them. He came back, and what he was taught while he was there, one of the things he was taught while he was there was how to count money and how to handle money. And for him, he was able to do what others can't do in this room. If I were to call you to the front of the room and ask you to take paper money out of your pocket, and if I'd have you close your eyes and I'd take the money and I'd hand you the money back, most times you wouldn't be able to tell me whether it was a $5 bill, $1 bill, and $20 bill. I've done this over and over again so I can prove it's the case. Every now and then you get lucky. But I remember as a boy, we could do that trick with my granddad. You know what? He didn't miss a lick. Why? Because there is a difference between the weight of a $5 bill and a $1 bill and a $100 bill. When the counterfeiters get it wrong, they don't get it wrong on the color of the artwork in most cases. They get that down to almost even the ink. You know where they get it wrong? The paper. The paper. The secrets of that are kept at the highest echelons of government. Most of us will never be able to know what that is. But as a blind guy, he was trained how to tell the difference. Where does this go? He came back, and he and grandmother moved to Marion, South Carolina, about 12 miles up the road, and opened what would be today considered an old country store. Lived in the back, had the store in the front. I can remember riding from our house to their house after church on Sunday for Sunday lunch and salivate the entire time. There were 8 kids. My mom and dad had 8. And back then we all got in one car, no car seats, all crowded into one car. And the whole 30 or 40-minute ride, I'm thinking about what I was going to get when I got to Granddad's store. I wasn't worried about the chicken and the dumplings and the rice. I was wanting the ice cream and the other things that I knew he would let his grandkids have. And even as I tell the story, it comes back to my mind's eye and my memory right now. I'm thinking about it. As soon as that car would hit the rock gravel pavement of his, right out in front of his store, we would bust out that car and run into that old country store. It had 2 screen doors, black in color. It had a Marita bread sign stapled to the center of it. We would grab that thing and we'd swing that door open, and on the back of that door there was a bell. An old cowbell tied to the back of the door. Why? Because Granddad was blind. He didn't see anybody coming in, so that bell, wherever he was in the store, would tell him somebody was there. He'd get up from his chair that was sitting next to a potbelly stove and go around that counter and get behind that cash register. And this is the kind of store that people lived off of debit. They'd work in the mill all week long, come in on the weekends and buy their staples on debit. And they'd come in the next week and they'd pay a little bit against the debit and buy some more groceries. And you know, most of them never paid off the debit. They simply paid against the debit. When he died, folks came from 3 generations. He was in business for over 30 years. They're well into his mid-70s. They came back to his funeral in a little old town like Marion, South Carolina. Why? Because he provided extraordinary customer service. Did folks cheat him? Every now and then I suspect somebody from out of town did. But you let one of those locals find out about it. I've heard him say, "Sir, you get a little confused. That is a 5, isn't it?" And that person could have said, "Yes" or "No," couldn't they? But they didn't. They didn't cheat him because he didn't cheat them. He looked after them. It was a relationship where extraordinary things were happening. And why do I focus on that? Because he served before being served. It wasn't about him at that point. It was about the customer. When he died, we found out how well it had been for him. I had no idea. Most of his children didn't know until he died. He didn't own just the store anymore. He owned about 6 or 8 tenement rental properties in that town that he purchased. Folks needed, he purchased the houses. I didn't know why grandmother would never let me go to the freezer when she needed something for Sunday lunch. She'd always go and get it herself. When she passed, I know why. There was something in there besides peace. It was that wealth. That wealth had been frozen in the freezer. Some of it had been frozen in that freezer. He took care of people, they took care of him. Be available to others. This person that I sort of alluded to on Sunday was always available to others. Folks came to him with issues that needed his attention, and they were convinced if they could just get close to him, that their issue would be solved. And it was. But he always had to make himself available. Sometimes they said he wasn't there on time. He came and showed up late. He said, "I'll be there." And when he got there, things were always worked out, weren't they? Exhibit passion. He was a calm person, and being calm doesn't necessarily mean one's not passionate. does it? Passion is not tied to excitement necessarily. That's an outward display sometimes. Passionate means being committed with that, with an unwavering effort to get things done. He displayed character, the kind of character that was godly in nature. He was committed to his purpose with excellence. And what he always did was took action. He never made folks wait. If you wanted to provide extraordinary customer service, it begins today by one's willingness to commit to taking action. You can forget everything else we talked about. If there was anything of value that you gained from today, if you packaged it all up and forgot everything else, don't forget this part. You will not deliver extraordinary customer service if you don't do something. You have to take action to do something a bit differently than what you've done. And as always, say thank you. I want to be the first to say thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you this afternoon. Whether I was here by imagination or in fact I was the third speaker and nobody else would come, either one I'm glad I got to come. I appreciate the opportunity. Tracy's going to let me hang out a little bit tomorrow. If you guys are agreeing with that, let me hang out a little bit tonight, tomorrow, to get to know a little bit more about the mastermind group. And I want to be the first to tell you thank you. And then finally, I want you to know that you can be and you should be and you are extraordinary if, in fact, you decide to do something different than maybe what you've done in the past.